They swore it would never happen again. The explosive backstage fights, the government's desperate plea, and Stevie Wonder's secret condition that forced Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Bunny Wailer back together for one final show. This is the untold story of reggae's most legendary reunion, and why they never shared a stage again after October 4th, 1975. Watch till the end. In the humid embrace of October 1975, the streets of Kingston throbbed with a strange electricity, the kind that only history can summon before it happens. Jamaica was bleeding, politically, socially, and spiritually, under the burden of violence between the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party. The island's once pristine image, a siren's call to the world's weary travelers, was now shrouded in fear and uncertainty. Desperate to reclaim its crown jewel status in the Caribbean, the government hatched a plan, one as ambitious as it was necessary, a week-long cultural festival. But no event within that grand design would burn brighter. No night would leave a deeper scar on the soul of reggae music than what the world would later whisper about. The last show the original Wailers ever performed together, Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Bunny Wailer, the holy trinity of reggae, had long since gone their separate ways by the time the plan was set in motion. A year of silence and broken ties stretched between them, fissures widened by the sharp blades of ego, betrayal, and record label politics. And yet, for this one night, there was hope, a fragile thread spun by the hands of Don Taylor, Bob Marley's manager, and bolstered by the Jamaican government's call for unity and celebration. At the heart of it all was a man whose name carried the kind of weight that could bridge such divides: Stevie Wonder. The American soul maestro, recovering from a near-fatal car crash 2 years prior, agreed to headline the show at the National Stadium in Kingston on one condition: the Wailers, in their original and untarnished form, would open for him. It was a request that almost broke the air itself. Bob Marley, haunted by the past but unwilling to let pride choke out possibility, reached across the void to Peter Tosh and Bunny Wailer. The calls were made. The past was neither forgotten nor forgiven, but for a moment, it was put aside. Rehearsals took place at Bob Marley's residence at 56 Hope Road, a now legendary address, where the echoes of laughter and song stretched long into the balmy nights. Word spread like wildfire. Kingston bristled with anticipation. No one could believe it. The Wailers together again. Stevie Wonder landed on Jamaican soil on October 3rd, 1975, to a reception befitting royalty. Among his first stops was the Salvation Army School for Blind, where he encountered a 14-year-old boy named Frankie Paul, blind and full of untapped genius. The boy would find his destiny rewritten by that meeting, a divine spark that would set him on a road to becoming one of reggae's unsung heroes. But the real magic was yet to come. As dusk surrendered to night on October 4th, a nervous energy crackled through the stadium. Third World took the stage first, easing the crowd into a simmering fervor with their soulful renditions of Sada Masagana, Sun Won't Shine, and Days of Slavery. But it was when the Wailers took the stage that the night caught fire. They emerged not as three separate men, but as a single force, welded by history and hardship, by Trenchtown's dust and the world's adoration. Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Bunny Wailer stood under the cruel glare of the stage lights, facing thousands of screaming fans and perhaps a few lingering ghosts. The opening chords of Rastaman chant ignited the crowd. It wasn't just music, it was resurrection. They weaved through the sacred tapestry of their past. Nice time, one love, and the frenetic urgency of Simmer Down. Each note was a battle cry, a plea, a memory. They paused to showcase their individual journeys. Bunny Wailer's haunting dreamland cast a spell over the stadium. Peter Tosh's defiant Can't Blame the Youth and the controversial Legalize, it defied the conservative heartbeat of Jamaican society. Bob Marley's No Woman, No Cry bled raw and sincere into humid air, and Jah Live lifted the entire crowd into a spiritual delirium. The applause was thunderous, relentless, a collective acknowledgement that something irretrievable was being temporarily restored. It wasn't just a concert, it was a reckoning, a fragile truce between past glories and future regrets. When Stevie Wonder finally took the stage, the stadium was already baptized in something otherworldly. For 2 hours, he enthralled the audience with masterstrokes like My Sherry Moore, Don't You Worry About a Thing, and Boogie on Reggae Woman, each note a testament to survival and soul. But the night refused to end quietly. The demand for an encore was a tidal wave, irresistible and absolute. And so, as if the heavens themselves demanded one final act of grace, Stevie Wonder called the Wailers back on stage. Together, they tore into Superstition, a collaboration so electric it might have scorched the stars. Then came I Shot the Sheriff, a song that in Bob Marley's hands had become a weapon of protest, a lamentation, a battle hymn. The crowd surrendered to the moment, bodies moving, hearts hammering against ribs as if trying to escape. When the final note hung suspended in the humid Jamaican night, when the last applause thundered and the lights dimmed, it was over. Not just a concert, but an era. Members of the Salvation Army took to the stage to thank Stevie Wonder for his $23,000 donation to the School for Blind, but their words floated like smoke above a crowd still trapped between elation and mourning. In the days that followed, the reunion was the only story worth telling. Rumors buzzed like mosquitoes in the hot Kingston air. Whispers that Island Records wanted to bottle this lightning again, that another Wailers album was possible. But dreams are fragile things, easily shattered by fear and greed. Don Taylor, sensing perhaps a threat to his dominion over Bob Marley's career, began to quietly sabotage the negotiations. Where there should have been reconciliation, there was now cold strategy. Bunny Wailer would go on to release albums under Island's banner. Peter Tosh, with the defiance of a man who had nothing left to lose, unleashed Legalize It under CBS Records. And Bob Marley? He carried the ghost of that night, like a hidden scar. The idea of a reunion lingered, a phantom hope, as the years wore thin. There were murmurs that once Bob had fulfilled his obligations to Island Records, the Wailers would rise again. But fate, that cruel and silent thief, had other plans. Bob Marley's life would be cut tragically short, the rebirth of the Wailers extinguished before it could even begin to stir. It is often said that the Wailers had grown too large to contain their own brilliance, that no stage could hold the magnitude of their combined genius. Maybe that's true. Maybe the price of greatness is fragmentation, the inevitable scattering of stars once bound together. But on that October night, under the indifferent gaze of the moon and stars, Bob Marley, Peter Tosh, and Bunny Wailer reminded the world, and perhaps themselves, of what they had been and what could never be again. In later years, Stevie Wonder, a man whispered to possess gifts that straddled the realms of the seen and unseen, would admit that from the moment he met Bob Marley, he knew the man's life would not be long. It was not a curse nor a prophecy, merely a recognition of the ferocity with which Bob Marley burned. The brightest flames, after all, die the quickest. Today, when the story of reggae is told, the Wonder Dream concert is not just another chapter. It is a sacred text. The night when three kings reclaimed their crowns for the last time, when the past and future held hands in a brief and fragile truce, only to be torn apart once more by the unyielding hands of destiny. It was the Wailers' final communion, their last testament, their farewell carved not in stone, but in rhythm and rebellion, in love and loss. No monument can capture what was lost that night. No tribute could ever be enough. But listen closely, and you can still hear it. The echo of Bob Marley's voice carrying on the trade winds, Peter Tosh's righteous fury bleeding into the rain, Bunny Wailer's longing woven into the dusk. A trinity broken, a legend sealed. And so the Wonder Dream concert passed not into memory, but into myth, a final, fleeting glimpse of paradise lost. The Wonder Dream concert was not just a night of music. It was a fleeting glimpse of what could have been, a reunion never meant to last. What do you think would have happened if the Wailers had truly reunited? Could they have changed reggae history once again? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives into music's forgotten legends, make sure you subscribe. More stories are waiting to be told.